Here we go.
Hey, na-na. Hey, na-na. Hey, hey, na-na. Hey, na-na. And just when I think the feeling is gone, you bring it back to me.
I think Rocky should talk about that since we played it first.
Oh, you want to do that, Rock? What does that mean? Sure. Yes?
Yeah.
What time is it? It's Nooner time. Welcome to the Nooner Show with J-Dubs and Rocky.
Gina and Nora, too.
We're broadcasting live from the Podcast Detroit studios in Rockin'
Good one, Gina. Good,
Be
good,
sure to
good.
find us at PodcastDetroit.com. What time is it? It's Nooner time. Somebody bring me a mirror.
Tanya, somebody bring me a beer.
A beer?
You don't drink beer.
Somebody bring me a
She
beer.
does today.
Somebody bring me a beer. What time is it?
It's
Nooner time.
Nooner.
day. Just,
It's nooner. It's nooner?
we're hoping. What's that noise? Who's
Yeah.
got?
Someone's got the live going.
Yeah,
got the
who's
live?
got
Is
that?
it
Must be
Volume.
me.
Or is it
Oops,
me?
it was me.
Both of you. Oh my god.
Grandma.
I'm moving to this side of the table. I'm
So,
over
I got
here
it. All right.
today.
So.
Yeah.
The lovely song that was playing. It's her. It's her. It was her, wasn't it?
I thought it was yours.
It was you.
All right, here, just turn the
No,
damn
don't
thing off.
touch anything, okay?
No, I need my phone.
No,
though.
you don't need your phone.
I do need my
You've
phone.
lost privileges.
Stop.
Uh-oh.
Okay, go ahead. Anyway.
Oh,
All right, this is not a good start.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
I know.
All right.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Because
Greetings.
last
Greetings.
week we had,
No one. The week before.
the
we
week
had the
before
mayor
we had the mayor.
I'm still
of
calling her
Flint.
the mayor.
I'm going
Me
to call
too.
her the mayor too.
Mayor
I'm
Karen
gonna call her
Weaver.
president.
I got to tell you though, real quick.
Yeah, we can
so
call her president.
Nora and I worked the polls yesterday.
And it,
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
where
yeah.
it was at. Wait.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
really funny, though, because I was not making eye contact with anyone because I was scared they were going to ask me something about politics.
Oh, my
So I was
God.
just
And she's
like,
gonna
I
be
know
like, there's
nothing.
There's
was so
an
funny.
elephant somewhere, and I don't know what the other one is.
No, but so these two guys were walking towards us, and Nora and I are like, okay, what's going on? So they come up and they said we were told to stand here, and they had a stack of flyers.
Oh, God.
The opponent flyers. So I looked at him and I said, oh, we're giving out some candy bars with our flyers.
Right.
And he looked at me and goes, we're giving out $50 bills with ours. I was like, all right.
We were like, you win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they were out there for a good 30 minutes. They were wimps.
Yeah.
They were wimps.
Pansies because it was so cold.
I was out there for
Yeah, you were out there for
4 hours. I was so cold.
Dedicated.
Yeah,
Loyalty.
Yeah, because,
Yeah,
I really,
anyway.
really wanted her to win.
Yeah, we
And,
all
Yeah.
did.
You know, she lost by like 300 votes.
Isn't there like a rule though? If it's like close, they have to do a recount.
It's not a rule, but
Oh.
she can call for one.
Okay.
But you can call for the recount, but it doesn't mean that
Yeah,
it's
it'll
gonna be
change
the
the
same.
outcome, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know.
Such a bummer because
it
I just
really
felt
is.
like she needed the other
Yeah.
4 years to
She really
Finish
did.
what she started.
finish what
Yeah.
she started. And she
Yeah.
she did so much
So
already
much.
in such a short
much.
time.
I just think that this means that there's greater things
I do
ahead.
too.
Yeah.
There's I'm
Yeah,
I mean,
think
not
you're
the
right.
outcome anyone expected,
Right.
but there's a reason.
But I
know.
mean, when it happened, you know, I'm sitting there and Jackie and I were texting back and forth all night. And she was like, "You hear anything yet?" You know, we're going back and forth. And it was like when I finally knew, and Jackie was like, "Oh, it's not sounding good." I'm like, "Jackie, be positive."
I know.
So then when I finally saw that, you know, wasn't going that way, it
Yeah.
was like, I know just what you said, Gina. She's gonna be great, fine,
Yeah.
great, because she is a great person.
Yeah.
And you
And
know,
her
she-
intentions are pure.
and-
I mean,
oh,
there's just,
yeah.
there's
Right.
no.
Yeah,
right.
you
And
know.
sometimes there's got to be an obstacle so that you
exactly.
go over it, go through it, go
Well,
beyond it to
and just-
reach
Good
to
point.
greater.
Right.
What she said
to
in
greater
her interview,
heights.
God pushes you in different
Different
ways.
Right.
and,
She
Yeah,
just doesn't
exactly.
run with
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
all right, onwards. We have
Yes.
my best boy, John Paul in the
Hello,
house.
thank you very much.
Hi, honey.
All of my moms here in one place. This is great.
You know, he's perfect
Oh, God.
In every way.
in every way.
Just what Rocky loves to hear.
And
No,
what-
are you kidding me? I was like, we were having lunch and we were in New York, and I was like, you know, I can't even be mad because he's all of our favorites. So like, as much as we're annoyed by him all the time,
I'm
is.
not.
Well, I'm talking about me and Olivia. You
Oh,
know what
okay.
I mean? He secretly is all of our favorites. So it's like, it's fine.
He is.
We've accepted. He's the
That's so
baby. What can
sweet.
you do?
He's
It's
the
hard to
Yeah.
be great, you know?
But you are.
Yeah.
He's
So-
here. And Rocky,
Rocky.
welcome
Come
back.
on,
She's here
Rocky.
also.
Anyway,
Sensing a little jealousy there, John Paul.
The center of gravity.
That's
the
right.
movie.
Yes.
Exciting.
I couldn't go because I had to work, so I'm going to have to go by
Oh.
myself.
Oh, my-
No, I'll go.
We'll
No,
go
no,
again.
no.
We're going every single weekend until it's done.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Thank
It was
you.
such
Thank
an
you,
honor to be
guys.
part of the
Yeah.
family viewing.
And you
Thank
cried.
you.
Did you cry?
Oh,
I did.
bawled.
I would've
Oh my
cried.
gosh, you know what? I cried because I'm so proud of
Right.
her.
That's what I'm
It
saying.
just-
Guys,
it was
you make me cry
amazing.
again.
But wait, I'm sure like the little kids are like, why are people
We
crying?
didn't have any little kids. I think we had 2 little kids,
No,
right?
no,
Yeah.
I'm saying other little kids,
Oh,
are
yeah.
saying, why are those grown-ups crying? It
Yeah.
wasn't sad like
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Yeah.
It wasn't happy ending.
It was your pride.
No.
It was just our pride.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
see her name and to
Yep.
hear her voice and to know
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
hard she's worked. And,
Right.
and
We're
it was
so
just
proud.
proud.
I posted a video of when I saw it in New York. John Paul videotaped my reaction, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I cried immediately. Like I thought, like I kind of thought maybe I wouldn't cry and maybe I would do something cool, you know, like get up and sing or something. Yeah, but no, the first note came and I was just like, like I
was
started
an
to
ugly
bawl
cry.
immediately.
So why did
Yeah.
you cry? Why did you cry?
You know, I just was overwhelmed with, you know,
Yeah.
the whole time, this industry, the one thing I've learned being in it for so long is that things change like that. You know what I mean? So it's like I've learned not to get emotionally attached to anything
yeah.
because, you know, it's like, and it's not anything, it's like, it's just the way the business is. You know what I mean? Things change on a dime of a hat. It just, you got to be able to roll with the punches or you're not going to survive, you know? So it's like,
But you do that very well.
yeah, so
I
I've
have
gotten,
to tell you, both
yeah,
of you guys do.
I've gotten used to just like, okay, like some exciting news, but it might not happen, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And I just know how this business is. So, you know, the whole time I was thinking, okay, you know, what if it doesn't play or what if they change their
Yeah.
minds at the last second? And like the way the movie was, I thought maybe, you know, Jeremy Renner was in charge of all the music for that. So I thought maybe he'll want one of his songs
he'll
at the
cut-
end.
yeah.
You know, so I really just, until I saw it for myself and heard it in person, I just was like,
Right.
there's a chance that it might not happen. So, you know, and it was good. I went and saw it with my attorney. So
Right.
Always
I was
good.
like, if something
That's who you
happens,
should- you
he's
should
gonna
say
get,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
If you're going to see it with
straight to the
anyone,
office.
see
Yeah,
it with your
that's so
attorney.
great.
Yeah.
So, and no,
You
it
want
was,
free popcorn?
yeah, no. So it was great though, and just being able to see it with him and Nancy was really, really special.
So
Yeah.
happy
Yeah,
for
I wish Frankie would have been there. You know, that
Yeah.
would have been like
Yeah.
the icing
Has
on the
Frankie
cake.
The
gone
whole
to see
No,
it?
he's not going to go see it unless I
He's
drag his ass
not?
out there. No, so I already talked to him. I was like,
love to see his reaction.
I refuse to send him I told everybody too. I was like, do not send him the song when it comes on because I want him to see it and hear it. Like, I don't want to be the
Yeah.
spoiler. You know
Yeah.
what I
Right,
mean? I
right.
want him to see it for the first time in a theater with his name on the screen. Like,
I
I don't
I
wanna
think
be,
you have to experience that because that's
Yeah.
part
Right.
of it.
Right.
Music,
I
and,
agree.
you know, it's so
You
loud.
just-
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's there,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah.
happens, and then
So
yeah, I think that's something that you have to experience.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so much more authentic.
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
some AMC employees who are confused as to why you're crying.
Why
Why,
the- and
why,
why
there-
That's
why
all
there's
part of
4
it.
adults in this kids movie all together bawling our eyes
Cheering
out.
when everybody
So-
else has left the theater.
Right.
Yeah.
Why there's 30 people still standing there or sitting watching. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So-
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I do think we
got-
have our
Guest on
Our
the
Got
show.
the
guest.
boss on the show.
the boss, the
boss.
Godfather, the head honcho, as Rocky says, my attorney.
Yeah.
Jeez, so Pete. I wish we could all say Tommy was my attorney.
Well, I can be. You know, I'm not.
Can't afford you,
Amy.
Tommy. Can't afford you.
Do you take welfare stamps
Yeah.
or food stamps?
Do you
as,
take stamps?
You know
What's the
Here's
payment
thing.
plan?
If you're Italian, it's automatic in. It's like a pro bono.
Oh, okay. wait. It's also an automatic out. You don't pay up. Hi, Mr. Valentino.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi.
So listen,
Wow.
I want to introduce everybody because I know it's going to sound like chaos in here, but So we have Rocky here.
Hey. He should know my voice by now.
We have John Paul today in the house.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
He wants to make sure he doesn't miss anything, that Rocky doesn't get any more information
Right.
than he
No more brownie points.
Yeah.
He's done with that.
Okay.
We have our wonderful tech, Jessica, who's here.
Hi, Jessica.
One of our hosts, Nora, is
Hi.
And-
I'm dressed
Hello,
the part
Nora.
too. How are you? It's good to have you on.
Thank you. I've never
Yes.
been better.
And then,
Yes.
we have our other Italian host,
Yep.
Miss former school teacher, or still a school teacher,
Still teaching.
semi-retired
Yep.
school
Semi-retired,
teacher.
yep.
Gina Guccini's in the house.
Oh my God! Man, oh man!
I
I'm
know.
Italian.
It says Fato in Italia right on my hip.
I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, we are so excited you're here. We're going to go ahead and start with our typical format. We just got through the banter. We're going to start with our intros and all that, and then go into the interviews. So, Jess, are we ready?
Take it away.
We ready?
All right.
All right.
You're listening to The Nooner Show. We appreciate your support, and we hope you get inspired to take a leap of faith. Don't forget to subscribe to The Nooner Show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at The Nooner Show. Our show today is sponsored by The Parlor in Hadley, Michigan, a music-themed pizzeria where pizza rocks. Also, check out Happy Days Records and More, a new music store and clothing store located at 1801 West Genesee Street in Lapeer, Michigan. And from the makers of Dope Water, if you can be anything, why not be dope?
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Why not?
This segment is designed to showcase the stories of talented individuals who had a wish and found a way to make it happen. They set goals, overcame obstacles, and turned setbacks into comebacks. Their stories are unique and, most of all, inspiring.
When you think of your favorite song, the first thing you think about is the artist. Sometimes you think about the writers, but you never think about the attorney. The truth is that behind every great masterpiece, there is a forthright soldier protecting the creator. A great entertainment attorney is an individual who offers a blend of creative and technical skills as the resources that guide an artist to the path of success. Our guest today is one of those great entertainment attorneys, Mr. Tommy Valentino. He is a respected and influential authority in entertainment sector and a leader who inspires action. With over 25 years in the industry, his experience and expertise have resulted in a 99% success rate. He has worked with many teams who have guided the careers of high-profile clients such as Mariah Carey, Daryl Hall and John Oates, Alanis Morissette, Big and Rich, our own Kid Rock, and the teen media personality Zach Sang, just to name a few. With an eye for opportunity and a power of persistence, he, along with Frankie Jason Turner, recently founded Zen Bulldog Entertainment, a company specializing in artist development. Mr. Valentino is a regular contributor and legal commentator on SiriusXM. In addition to his business pursuits, Tommy is a philanthropist at heart and has been involved with many charitable causes. Joining us today is Mr. Valentino, calling in all the way from New York City as he's sharing his inspiring story of what it took to start from scratch and build a successful entertainment law business in the very competitive market of New York, New York.
Yeah. Bring it.
Are you there still after that?
Right.
He hung up as soon as we started singing. The one that was really off was Nora.
I wasn't singing.
At PMG.
Oh. Well, hopefully nobody else heard that.
Right.
The singing part, anyway.
Right.
Anyway, first of all, we're going to start with congratulations to you and your team for Center of Gravity and the
Yay.
movie Arctic Dogs. We were just bantering about it before we got you on the phone here, and it's a great movie, but I have to tell you, when the credits started rolling and all your names came up and the song was playing, that's when we all lost it.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say something there, and that is probably one of the greatest moments of my career. It really is and was because,
Well,
totally.
I'm glad you said that because I know you guys went and saw it the night it came out in New York. And, of course, I was telling John Paul, text me the credits, text me the song at the end. I just want to see that part because Rocky would not let us go to the movies. So, so
Well, the funny thing is too is I was saying before when I found out I was going to be in New York on Friday, I was telling them I was like I'm going to have Tommy. I'm going to go with Tommy. You know.
I know.
And so my mom was like, well, we're going to go see it tonight. I was like, oh, you can't go see it with mine. She's like, oh, you think we're going to wait for your schedule? And I was like, I'm in the movie.
So
So we waited.
John Paul was texting me and he was saying Rocky's crying. I'm crying a little. Nancy's crying a little. No tears from Tommy though. I'm sure. So let me ask you this, Tommy. Why was that such a big moment for you though?
Well, it's a big moment because this is one. I've done a lot of things as an attorney. When you do things as an attorney, there's a different level of emotion. You're more objective. Your role in the process when you're the attorney is much different than when you're the company that's the owner of the master recordings and the publishing, which is what Zen Bulldog is. Right. So when you do that, you have more stake, in the game. Yeah. So that makes you react even differently. Not that when I have people who are successful as an attorney, it's not gratifying, but this was particularly gratifying because of all the work that we've done over such a long period of time. Yeah. And when you see things start to connect, then you really, really get emotional about it. Even though I wasn't crying, I was crying another way.
Yeah. That's got to be an amazing feeling, though, to know that you're the person that takes the action that can impact so many people's lives. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine what that must feel like. Mm-hmm. I'm crying just thinking about it.
One of the you're crying, differentials here is that when you're the attorney, you're usually working on a team. There's a manager involved, most likely. There may be a business manager or whatever. But the team, when you're doing what we're doing with Zen Bulldog, is a different team because you're working with creative people. You're working with producers. In this case, Frankie's writing songs, Rocky's writing songs. Frankie's Frankie Turner, who's from Detroit, right? Mm-hmm. So you have this. It's a team, but it's a different kind of team. And so it's a different kind of strategy that you need to employ when you're doing what we're doing with Zen Bulldog.
Mm. And we're going to get a little more into Zen Bulldog because it's
I love the name.
I do too. We're going to find out where that came from. But before we dig we dig into all that, we do want to get a little bit of the backstory of what was Tommy Valentino like as a child.
Well, I grew up in a town called Mamaroneck, New York, and the moniker of the town is the Friendly Village, and so I had a great childhood. I think I was disciplined and I played a lot of sports and I had a lot of friends, and I'd say 10 of my best friends then are my 10 best friends now.
Really?
That's what I'm proud about.
Not many can
I was
say
just
that.
going to say that. Yeah.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and in fact, one of those friends just called me a little while ago, and we're working on another project together that involves me. But we're all on email every day, and we're all in touch, and we laugh and we have a good time. So I'd like to think that that growing up in that town, which it's funny because it's only half an hour from New York City, but if you ever go there, it's like every other suburb in America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm.
So are you going to tell us what the project is? Or
yeah,
no?
right.
He's going to leave us hanging. He's going to dangle it.
I knew Jackie's wheels were turning as soon as you said that.
Here's the funny thing about this project is that when I told John Paul about it, he said, well, of course people are going to tell you they like it, right? Who's going to tell you they don't? So it's a project where I believe that there's a void in the market for judicial entertainment. And these are 1 minute to 1.5 minute videos that I do of legal cases that have a twist. They're not, some are entertainment oriented, but some are also just consumer oriented, the kind of small claims cases that you would see on the Judge Judy show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
my
Very
belief,
nice.
yeah. Yeah, and so I'll take like a dog biting case where, you know, a dog bit the ear of a 4-year-old child in Manatee County, Florida. And then, you know, they want to put the dog to sleep because of what he did. And then a judge intervenes and says no. And so the moral of the story is the dog has the same rights of due process as humans do.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So there are little vignettes like that. And I believe that content is moving towards short form entertainment. And so this is specifically designed for radio and websites and advertisers and people of that nature.
When did you know you wanted to go into entertainment law? Like, was it when you started college? Was it before college?
Oh no! Well, I knew I wanted to go. It really wasn't about entertainment law for me. I wanted to be in the music business.
In which way?
And so,
what did you want to do?
Originally, okay. Well, I played guitar in a band when I was younger.
Oh.
But I never. It's funny. After 2 or 3 years, I didn't really enjoy it, so I quit the band and became the band's manager.
Smart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of band was it?
Well, we did cover tunes. We did 60 cover tunes, 60s cover tunes.
Okay.
So, for instance, we would get up on stage and we might play Inagata Davida by the Iron Butterfly, which every band all around the world played at that time because it was a half hour long. So if you knew 4 chords to the song, you could basically say you were a band and go out and charge people money, you know, and then maybe do like Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, make that half an hour long. And it was just that.
So, how old were you when you realized that you didn't want to be in the band?
I was about 15.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow. And you
Okay.
became the
Yeah.
manager
And
at
you
that
became
age.
manager. Yeah.
I waited about 6 months, and then when I was 16, I became the manager. Yeah.
And so,
And
go ahead.
it's funny because I'm not saying that I was a good manager, right? But then I was at school one day, and someone came up to me and said, you know, we need a band to play at my graduation party or my sister's graduation party. Would you guys be willing to do it? And I said, yeah. And I think they offered us like $300 or $400 at that time, which we were freaking out.
Right.
Freaking out.
We freak
So
out
after
today
that-
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that, I guess they thought I was a good manager, and that kind of got me started along the path of music. But the point of all of it is that my original inclination towards the business was based on my love of music, and the fact that I played just sort of added to that. Even though I recognized that that's not what I ultimately wanted to do, I did read and write music, so I felt like I had a sense when I was listening to things. It wasn't just as a fan; it was at someone who had taken guitar lessons for 4 or 5 years and had a little bit of knowledge into, you know, notes and progressions and chords and things like that.
So do you still play the guitar today?
No.
You said that quick.
No.
What did your
No.
What did your parents think of you dabbling in the music business in high school?
Well, my dad was a roofer. And so, you know, the one thing he always said to me, I want you to go to college. That there wasn't even a conversation about that, right? And so, you know, initially they were supportive. They were supportive really all the way through. My mother and my father were completely supportive. They understood my passion. They understood that I didn't want to be a roofer. And then, you know, it was later on that when I started to work in the business and saw how things work, that I decided to go to law school. But that wasn't, everyone in law school was there because they wanted to be a lawyer, and I was there because I loved music and thought that practicing entertainment law would be a more secure path in the event that something didn't work out on the creative side that I was drawn to.
Wow.
That's
I
interesting.
love that you already knew at that young age, what you wanted to do. Do you think that
I heard. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you feel like your dad instilled that into you, or was something that you just had?
Oh no, my dad definitely did. But here's the funny thing, and later on in my life, I moved to Nashville and lived there for 7 years, which there seems to, you wouldn't expect someone like me to do that, right?
Yeah.
But my dad listened to country music.
Oh,
Really?
And so, yeah, he was a big fan of Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson. And so, and then growing up, I had a friend, and I want to say these people's names because they're very important to me.
Yeah.
I had a friend growing up named Joe Gironda. Joe had a brother named Vito. And Vito was 3 years older than us, right? And so every day after school, we'd go over to Joe's house. His parents were literally right off the boat from Italy, right? So we would go in the basement, and Vito would come in and play all this music. So he might be playing Cream or Steppenwolf or Sly and the Family Stone. And it was great because there was no, if it was good music, you made the cut and you got into the basement, right? The basement was the A&R
Right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And so from there, I started to say to myself, well, I love the music that my dad's playing, but I also love this other stuff that Vito's playing. And that's how I kind of got into all the modern music of the time. And then, of course, I forget where I was. I think one day I was at baseball practice, and I was in a field, a park, and this convertible drove by. And I heard this song called Bernadette. And it froze me because this guy, I've never heard a guy sing like that. And he was singing Bernadette. And, so afterwards, I started to do some research. I went to the local record store, bought the 45 of Bernadette, and that was my introduction into Motown, which I'm as passionate about as everyone in Detroit. Trust me.
Welcome to Detroit.
yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why didn't you move to
I
Detroit?
was
Why'd you go
gonna
to
say-
Nashville?
Yeah.
Oh, well, at the time, I just knew what Motown was. I was too young to really think about moving anywhere. I didn't move to Nashville until, about midway through my career. I was there from about 84 to 89.
So when you graduated law school, what was like the first big, in your mind, what was the first big case or big client?
Milestone.
Yeah, milestone that you worked on.
Well, the big case or the big client, I mean, the first big thing that came was really Kid Rock.
Wow.
That was the one. Bob was the one. That was really the client that everyone paid attention to after I had shopped it for 2 years. And I mean, I couldn't get arrested. But then people started to see things differently. We made some adjustments. And those adjustments were successful. And then, so it was really Bob that was like the first big name person that I worked with.
So is that how your Detroit relationship then really solidified and began?
No. I was working at BMI, Broadcast Music Incorporated.
Right.
The Performing Rights Society. And so we had a staff meeting one day, and there was about 7 of us. Now, at the time, I wasn't a lawyer. I was doing like A&R for BMI, right? And so they had a staff meeting, and they went down the list. Who wants to go to LA? Who wants to go here? Who wants to go to Florida? And there were 2 cities left. One was Atlanta, and the other one was Detroit. And before I knew what was happening, one of the executives who worked with me said, well, I'm taking Atlanta. And I was left with Detroit.
Okay.
So I'm now, my boss came up to me and said, oh, there's this show called the Motor City Music Awards. And since you're with BMI, you're going to have to present an award.
Oh.
So I was like, whoa, okay. So I fly into Detroit. Now, I don't know a soul in Detroit, right? And they wanted me to stay for like 2 or 3 days and go on some panels and do some things. And I was nervous. I had never been to Detroit. And so I present the award. I believe it was at the State Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And, I give the award out. And now I'm thinking to myself, okay, like, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go back and sit in the hotel, or, what's going to happen? So I start to walk to the back of the theater, and I see this 80s style hair band. Look at these guys. And one of the guys yells out to me, "Hey, New York."
Oh.
Wow.
He knew.
Yeah. Yeah. And that gentleman was none other than Brian Pastore.
No way.
Wow.
I know you're all loving this.
100%.
This is great.
So, and he had his brother Mark with him, and then the rest of the band, right? So the minute he said, "Hey, New York," naturally I had to react, right? And, I walk over there and we start to talk, and one thing led to another. And then the next thing I knew, I spent the next 48 hours hanging out with Brian and Mark.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
Wow.
History began.
Wow.
Yeah. And in fact, I extended my stay. I was having such a good time.
Yeah.
I went from thinking, like, how am I going to get out of here, to, like, this is the best place on earth. And really,
Wow.
I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it then. And I know you all know that, Brian and Mark and I are still very, very close to this day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
What a
that's
great
sort of how
story.
That is a good story.
yeah.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Brian. Shout out to
Yeah,
Brian.
right.
and
Hey, New York.
Yeah. Hey, Detroit.
I told him, I was going to call him and say, hey, I'm going to shout you out on the Nooner Show. But then I figured, let me shout him out, and then I'll put it up on my LinkedIn post, and he'll freak out even more.
Yeah.
Well, we've had Brian on the show
Yeah.
before. He's great. He's great.
Yeah, we
know.
love Brian.
So committed to Detroit and music. So from that point on, how did you end up building such a powerful network? Was it after the Kid Rock experience? Is that because, I mean, anybody can go to college and get a degree of any kind of
Whatever,
degree,
yeah.
but building such a strong network, doesn't matter what industry you're in, is not easy to do.
Right. And the way it works is you just have to connect the dots, right? You're going from point A to point B to point C. You're trying to make sure that the connections you make are mutually beneficial. In my case, in the earlier part of my career, some of the people that I was associating with didn't have the same values and principles that I had. So it takes a while to figure that part out. Okay, like, I want to make sure that I'm in sync with the people that are in my network. But it's a lot of it is, just learning as you go along and figuring things out. But it's also strategic too. Right? There's strategy involved.
What kind of values did you have at that time when it came to having business relations? Like, what was important to you?
The values are the same. The values are the same today. Okay, so the values and the principles were taught to me by my family. In other words, by my immediate family, my mother and my father, my grandparents on both of my mother's side and my father's side. And really all my friends, everywhere we went, everyone had the same values, right? Trust, loyalty. You're a man of your word. You're a woman of your word. And that was constantly reinforced. And there was a way that you were taught to carry yourself, as Joe Namath would say. because I've read Joe's book, and that is that you're humble.
Mm-hmm.
You're humble.
Yeah.
You let your actions speak louder than your words.
Right.
And there was a couple of times when there might have been situations when I was young and, got cocky, and like there were 20 people to just say, dial it back right now.
Was
And
your
you did,
dad
because
one of them?
my dad could just look at you. Okay?
As
He
many
didn't have
as
to
many
speak.
Fathers
Fathers
can.
can.
Yeah.
I speak from experience.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
We do.
If my hair got a little long, or at one point I was daring, and John Paul I know will love this. 'Cause,
Me and Rocky just gave each other a look when you said that.
I know John Paul will love this. So I had these big mutton chop sideburns, right? And I was letting them grow and grow and grow. And then one night I came home for dinner, and there was a photo. I was in the local newspaper because I was co-captain of the football team with my dear friend Danny Maida, and my dad just looked at me and said, I think you need to shave those sideburns. Then I went upstairs and I did.
Wow.
Yeah. He just gave you the look.
That was it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't a conversation. Yeah.
I have a question. So I told you this. I've told my mom that. I said there's two people in this world that scare me the most, and that is you and my mother. She's sitting across from me right now. We have a person in between us. Don't worry, I'm safe. Was your dad as intimidating as you are? Because I feel like your dad probably would scare the shit out of me too. So
Yeah. If you know what, someday, or I debated on whether I should send you a photo of that I have of my dad.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah. I mean, he had like a thin mustache, and if you saw a photo, you'd say, okay, my dad was more than me on that level. He was intense, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to do what he had to do. He was a roofer, and if it rained out, he didn't work. So later in life, I understood that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
What's the best lesson
toughness
from your
comes
dad?
from a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the best lesson that you got from your dad?
Best lesson would be, again, it was the idea that you carry yourself a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You remain humble.
Mm-hmm.
You just remain humble. You don't, he was a kind of a guy who believed that keep things under the radar. Family was number one.
Mm-hmm.
Family was first, and doing the right thing. He had a definite value system. It's not like today where everything's gray and it's this and it's that. I mean, there were principles, there were certain, I don't want to say rules, but there were certain codes of conduct, and you adhered to those codes of conduct.
It sounds like integrity was really
That's the word.
the key.
Yeah, that would be a great word to describe it.
Integrity.
So
Yeah.
fast forward just a little bit. When you started working, how did you come in contact with Kid Rock? How did that whole thing evolve as it did? Because you've told us a little bit just about the trials that you had to go through, but tell us how that happened.
Okay, so in the Detroit Free Press, it's talked about a little bit, but naturally when you're being interviewed by someone and it's an article where everyone's telling their story, it's different than, from my perspective, what happened, which is that, in other words, by the time I got to Kid Rock, then that was that. But the question that you're asking is, how did you get to Kid Rock?
Yeah.
Right? Or how did Kid Rock get to me? However you look at it.
Right.
How did it get to you?
So, okay, so I was at a club in New York City, and I can't remember the name of it, but I was with a client of mine named Jamie Houston. Jamie later went on to become a big writer for Disney. He wrote 2 or 3 of the top songs in High School Musical.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And at the time, yeah, if you look his name up, you'll see that. And at the time, he was signed to Warner Chappell Music, and he was an up-and-coming writer-producer, and he had a production company, and he was looking to sign artists to the production company. So he and his girlfriend and my wife Nancy and I went out one night, and we're at this club, and we see this woman performing on stage, and we're like, oh my God, this woman's amazing. You know, Jamie said, would you go up to her with me? And, you know, I want to sign her to the production company. So I said, sure. So after the show, we approached the woman. I said, hi, I'm Tommy. This is Jamie. And the woman was Cara DiGregorio, who is one of the most successful songwriters now and was a judge on American Idol.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right. I knew
yeah.
I recognized that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
follow
So
her on Instagram.
she turns to me and says, well, if you want to do anything with me, you have to talk to my publisher. And she hands me a card of her publisher. Now, the publisher was a guy named Brian Brinkerhoff. And so he had heard some things about me from my friends in Nashville, one friend in particular, John Briggs. And so when I called Brian up, he said, hey, you know, I've heard really good things about you from John. And, you know, Cara is not, you know, you can't do a production deal with her. She's already on her way. And, you know, but I just got a call from a manager named Steve Hutton, and he has an artist named Kid Rock. Mm-hmm. And Kid Rock is looking for an attorney. He's had 2 or 3 attorneys, and things haven't worked out for whatever reasons. And would you be interested in talking to this guy? And he said, you know, he's a personality. That was the word he said. He's a personality and a character. And you sound like the kind of a guy that could do a good job representing him, because representing him is like part of it would be, you know, helping the manager and, you know, really integrating into the team. So I said, sure, why not? You know, I was getting a referral from a publisher, so naturally I would be interested. And then I called Steve Hutton, and we spoke, and we hit it off. And then he said, I'm going to have Bob call you. And then Bob called me on a Saturday. We spoke for about a half hour, and he said, hey, man, I really dig where you're coming from, and, you know, I want to work with you. And then I think about 2 or 3 weeks later, I flew to Detroit, and on a Saturday afternoon, and don't remember much of what happened after that.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. And then we just kept going from there. You know, we started the shopping process and got him his deal with Jason Flom at Lava Atlantic Records.
Wow.
And then from there, you know, everything just started to catch on and become what led to where he is today.
Wow.
Wow.
What? How long after you met him did you go see him live, perform live?
I think because there was the way I remember it probably was a month or two, because the A&R person, Andy Karp, was already sort of into this, and he was flying in to see Bob. And so Karp and I flew in together first to see the first show. And then after that show, that's when we went back and convinced Jason Flom to fly in. And then Jason flew in to the State Theater. And then after that, you know, it wasn't much longer, maybe 2 weeks, and the deal was done.
What was it about him that made you want to work with him?
Well, there was a buzz on him, right? So Bob had already done a lot of the work himself. I mean, he was selling out clubs. He was selling out. I'll never forget. I sat down with Jason Flom, and he said, you know, this guy Kid Rock's selling out the State Theater. I've got Matchbox 20. They've sold 2 million records, and you know, we're almost like not selling out as well as he can. right? And they're an act with 2 million records. So Bob had created a lot of the the buzz and the excitement on his own. So that was a case where I was just, again, connecting the dots, right? If you look at all the people who were involved and all the people who were interested in it,
right?
And then, of course, I recognized what he was doing. There was a little bit of a discrepancy because at the time, Vanilla Ice had just been dropped. And everyone was telling me, a white guy doing hip hop and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This guy is not doing hip hop. Okay. If you go to see his live show, it's rock and roll as rock and roll can be.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, does he have a DJ named Uncle Cracker on stage spinning records? Yeah. Does he have a lot of the bravado that, some of the hip hop artists have? Yes. But in its essence, this was a rock and roll show.
Wow.
And it's interesting that as he's progressed later in his year, that's where the show leans more toward now, and country, rock,
right,
sort of that genre of music.
Right. So from that point on, as you're going on in your career, how did you end up meeting Frankie Jason Turner? And I want to get into Zen Bulldog.
Sure. Frankie, well, all roads lead to Brian, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, Brian had called me because he wanted me to meet with Mark Foreigner from Grand Funk Railroad because Mark had some contractual issues with the record company that he had dealt with years ago. So, and then Brian said to me, as Brian would, right? Oh yeah, and I have this songwriter I want you to meet. He worked with us at Harmony Park from the time he was a kid and so on and so forth. And I said, sure. So I met with Mark, and when that meeting was over, Brian was still at Harmony Park. I went downstairs and we had lunch, and I was introduced to Frankie, and I had heard some of the stuff that Frankie had done with the Gentlemen Mutineers, but I really, really liked the music that he had done, but I just fell in love with Frankie as a person.
And so,
so from there, we just started talking, and we really got to know each other really well. And I said, I'm not really looking in this instance. If I was going to do something with you, I don't just want to do it as a lawyer. I'd want to do it as a partnership and form a company.
Wow.
And we would form a publishing company and a production company. And he was into that. And so that's then, we moved forward with Zen Bulldog Entertainment, which is our production and publishing company.
How did the Zen Bulldog, how did that name come about?
That was Frankie's idea. And I was saying to him one day, I get spastic with certain things, with a lot of things, right?
We don't understand that.
I don't know. I had my corporate guy on the phone. It's like, well, what's the name of this company? I'm like, I don't know, right? So I call up Frankie. Frankie's like the most steady personality I've ever known in my life, and it's almost like he manages me. And so I call him up. I'm freaking out. I'm like, hey, we need a name. I don't know what the name. Think of a name, and And so when Frankie and I met, what I feel like we really bonded on, besides the fact that I thought his music was great, and you talk again about values and principles, right? I felt like we come from the same place, even though he grew up somewhere far from me. Besides the music and everything, what we really bonded on was we started talking about meditation. And so Frankie was doing some meditation, and I said, oh, well, that's really interesting. I've been meditating for 30 years. I do yoga. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
30 years.
I do Tai Chi, right? And then I started telling him about all the books I've read in this subject. And, he was like kind of surprised, as most people are, right? And so he came up with the idea of Zen Bulldog Entertainment. You know, I think it's apparent who's the Zen and who's the Bulldog.
Right. I really love the name.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
It
a
is
great
fitting.
story.
It's a great story
Yeah, it
behind
is.
the name.
So, what's your favorite book?
It's the truth. My favorite book, well, in that area, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which are like the Sanskrit texts of yoga.
Wow.
But I read a lot of things on Buddhism and Eastern religion.
Oh, wow.
I read a lot of books on religion
That's interesting.
and martial arts.
You never knew,
Yeah.
did you?
No,
Wow.
we did not know that.
I did know that.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
No, I do want
I'm
to.
really, I'm deeply into it, but I'm not fanatical, but I'm very knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, I did. You have mentioned that to me because we've had talks about that kind of stuff, and it's my sister. I was saying, I was talking to her. I said, you really need to get into doing just a little bit of yoga, a little bit of meditation, because I'm not that kind of person. I said, if Tommy Valentino can do yoga and meditate,
Right.
there's no type of person that can do
Right.
this, And then she started doing it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of value to it, and
there's
you
tons
wouldn't
of value,
necessarily think that I would do it, but it also helps in business a lot because it keeps you balanced, it keeps you focused, and it teaches you to live in the moment so that if I'm not crying when my favorite artist is debuting her movie at movie theater in New York City,
Second
right?
favorite.
It helps with that center of gravity.
Yes. That's just being present in the moment, right? That's what that is. And so, Frankie was aware that I had this Zen side, right? And so I think that had a lot to do with, it as well, even though the reality is, I would say Frankie's more Zen most of the time than I am. And I'm Bulldog most of the time, but there's a lot of times when we have conversations and I'd like to think that I'm Zen in, saying to him, here's what you need to do this, that kind of thing.
you both
And
are
so
equal parts. I feel.
whenever I'm sorry?
You're both equal parts. You know what I mean? Like, I do feel like there's
Yeah.
Zen and Bulldog in each one of you, and
Yeah.
there's more of a presence of, at different times, but both of you are very much, you both are the Zen and the Bulldog, which I think for John Paul and I, that works out very well.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great combination. And again, if you were to ask me what inspired this partnership, it was the fact that when we started talking, it was about meditation.
Wow, that's interesting.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense now that I think of, because, obviously with the whole center of gravity, we were very excited for Rocky, but we were also very excited for Frankie because I do feel like he really has been grinding at it for so long. And now it sort of makes sense with the whole Zen being present in the moment. That's probably what has helped you guys stay in it so long, because it can be very discouraging, this industry. And, it seems like a lot of people just can't stick with it to get through it.
Well, here's the interesting thing about that. Our attitude has always been, we're going to keep doing this no matter what, right? Because when you genuinely like someone, why would you not want to talk to them every day?
Right.
You look forward to those conversations. And the challenges that come in, you're both saying, well, we can get this figured out, but we're not going anywhere. So if we just keep hanging in there, sooner or later, something should break. But you know what? Let's say that it doesn't. We don't care. I mean, we care, obviously, right? Because we want to make money. We want to have our people be successful.
Right.
But it's more important to us that, 20 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever, that we can pick up the phone and have the same conversation that we're having today.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
That's just so cool. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but we do have a quick 4 for 4 that we're going to do. Each of us are going to ask a question. Random. Go ahead, Rocky.
Yep. All right. So my question is, if someone was to make a movie of your life, who would you pick to play you?
Currently or anyone?
Whoever. Yeah. Anyone. Whoever.
Marlon Brando.
Yes. That's what I thought.
With the grapes in his mouth or without? No.
Well, either any of his roles. Any of his roles.
Yep. Okay. Gina, go ahead.
All right.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Who in your education and who made a difference in your life? Was there one person that sticks out in your educational career that made a difference?
I can't believe you're asking this question.
Wow.
The answer is Irene Willis, who was my
Wow.
English teacher in 11th grade at Rhinebeck High School.
Shout
Changed
out
my
to
life.
Irene. Shout out to Irene.
You know what?
Willis.
Changed my life.
I'm a teacher, so I always wonder about that. Like, what differences do we make in people's lives? So,
Yeah.
what
I
did she?
would not be where I am today without Irene Willis. I looked her up a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if she's currently deceased or not, but
Wow.
she changed my life. She changed my life.
Can we ask how?
Well, she made me aware that I had an ability to write,
Oh, wow.
Oh.
and she brought it out of me. And that ability is what allows me to do my LinkedIn posts today and write my legal documents. And I
Oh,
went to NYU,
very good.
became an English major.
As a teacher, I'd encourage you to continue to look to see if you could find her. She'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Yeah.
Nora.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay.
piece of advice for you.
Nora, go ahead.
Okay, mine is
Fair enough.
if you had to create a playlist that everyone in the world had to listen to, what 3 songs would you pick?
But you can't pick anything from Rocky, John Paul, and Frankie Jason Turner.
Yeah.
Obviously, those would be your
3.
topics.
Yeah. What 3 songs?
Dancing in the Streets, my favorite song.
Oh, yeah.
Second would be Since I Lost My Baby by The Temptations.
Oh, I love that song.
Third would be Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, wow.
I would listen to that
Wow.
song.
Now
Yeah, I would
see, we
listen to
were
that.
we were wrong,
I
guys.
Yeah, we
thought
were.
for sure there would be a
I
Frank
knew it.
Sinatra
yeah, we
song
thought
in
it was
there.
Frank Sinatra.
I knew you would. It wouldn't be. I knew
That's
it.
really
I knew
cool.
it.
I
Yeah.
thought Frank. would
Well,
definitely
you
be on the
know, I
list.
mean, Frank is, with Frank, he's just Frank.
Right.
So
Right.
I can't belittle Frank. Like, if I'm going to give you one Frank song, do you understand this, right? Then I have to give you every single song.
Yes, yes,
We're
true.
going to Frank. We're talking about the greatest that ever lived of all time, period, end of story.
Yeah.
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 Okay. That's good. Okay, so last question is your signature tagline says, good advice can change your life. What's the best
Right.
advice you ever got that really made an impact on your life?
I think the best advice I ever got in my life was to go to law school. That was given to me by my family.
Wow.
Yeah. They, I was in the music business at a young age doing a lot of things, and, I was impressionable. And again, as a collective unit, they all sat me down and said, no. You're going to law school. You're going to be educated. And that was it. And I think that was the best advice that's ever been given to me. There's lots of other great advice, but that was important. Yeah.
For someone who's listening to this conversation, whether they're pursuing a career in music or any other passion, what's one piece of life advice that you think everybody needs to have?
You have to go with your gut. You have to go with your gut. I posted about this yesterday, and you're going to be going down this road, and so many things are going to happen and blow up in your face. And naturally, there's the cliches. Okay, you get knocked down, you come back up, right? And all that. And that's true. But at a certain point, you get knocked down 10 million times, and, maybe you start to say, I don't want to get back up, right?
Right.
You have to learn from each experience that hurts you, right? In Buddhism, there's the idea that you should be thanking the people that hurt you the most, right? And I think that's in Christianity and most other religions, that concept, right? Of the people that hurt you the most are the ones that you should thank the most, because they're the ones that teach you the most. And that has certainly been the case in my life.
Wow. Great.
And I want to thank them all,
Good
even though at
advice.
the time the lessons hurt.
Yeah.
But they've made me the person that I am today, and I've never been happier in my career than I am right now.
Wow. That is great advice. We have to wrap it up, unfortunately.
Okay.
Tommy,
I
thank
just have
you
to say
so
one
much.
thing though before we wrap up, that John Paul and I are eternally grateful for you and for Frankie and everything that you
Changed our
guys.
lives.
Yeah, 100%.
We're
meeting you
all
guys.
grateful that
Thank you.
we get to be part of this journey.
Yeah, I always say that was going to New York and meeting Frankie were the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we just have to tell you guys how much we love you. So.
Yeah. And Tommy, thank you
Well,
so
again-
much for taking time out today too. Go ahead.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'm happy to, and I enjoyed this tremendously.
Well, hopefully you're
enjoyed
gonna
It was
come to
nice
Detroit.
to meet you.
Yeah.
And we'll have you on
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
studio.
Well,
Yeah.
in studio here. We'd love
And
to
I'm
have you
coming
in the
to
studio.
Detroit. Don't worry. I want to come in with a bang, though.
Yeah.
We want you to.
I don't think you come anywhere any other way.
Yeah, would
so.
you come any other way? Anyway, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All
So,
right. Love
every-
to you all.
All right, thank you.
And remember, sometimes the only mode of transportation available.
Is a leap of faith. Thanks for taking a leap of
Thank
faith,
you.
and happy hump
Happy
day.
hump
Thank
day.
you, Tommy. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Tommy.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.